happens. You have to get it cooked. You have to get it painted.
Listen to our pan. The wok is always talking to you. Do you hear the sizzle?
I do.
So if we hadn't preheated it correctly, there would be no sizzle sound, and that is not good. And also take a look at the fact there's absolutely no sticking. So this is natural nonstick cookware. So now we can add the pork and the scallions. Yep, just pour it all in. Oh, that looks so good.
Doesn't it?
And now a half a teaspoon of salt, roughly, and about a big pinch of white pepper.
Why white pepper? I know this is common in Chinese cooking.
The Chinese don't like black specks. So in less than 5 minutes, you've got your meal.
Yeah, there you go. Again, like watercolors. You're like, get
Right?
it done, and then
it's
done.
so beautiful.
But yours is beautiful. My
Yeah.
watercolors aren't necessarily.
And the best thing is I always have cooked rice at home, and I suddenly realize I need to get dinner on the table, and I always have something in the fridge.
This is a perfect vehicle for leftovers.
Yes.
Fried rice.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
Yeah.
if this is it, we're going to go outside in my beautiful garden and have lunch.
Absolutely.
Let's do it.
Okay.
Oh, I'm so excited.
Oh, I love this. It's my all-time favorite fried rice.
Oh, and the pork, and it's nice and moist, even though, you know, we cooked it medium well, because it's got all that fat in there, it keeps it going.
All my friends who have made this recipe, all my students who have made this recipe, once you've made it, you can't stop thinking about it. You become an addict for Chinese, homemade Chinese barbecued pork.
This is just so ridiculously good. I'm gonna have to make this meat candy. When I told my son we were gonna do this, he's like, Mom, can I come? Well, now I'm gonna do it. And now I see how easy it is. I have to say thank you so much. And thank you for coming back. Let's have a little toast.
Sarah, it's been my pleasure, and I'm glad you're a new addict.
Oh my God, yes. Thank you. Next time, we'll go to Chinatown.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Cheers.
Whoa! Cheers! Of all the phobias in this world, I don't think anybody's ever given a name to the fear of entertaining, but it's a very real fear. Many people have it. Well, don't worry, I've got you covered. My super simple recipes are going to make entertaining so easy. You'll love this stress-free tip for mashed potatoes. We'll make them a day ahead of the big dinner. This way, they're going to taste so fresh and they're going to be so light as if you just made them right now, but you didn't. But don't tell anybody you didn't. And a winner after dinner. Skillet apple cranberry pie. This one has my top 3 ingredients: apples, shortbread, and caramel. I mean, it doesn't get any better than that. Woo-wee, yum, yum. And then, we're all in this together. This is an adventure together. Why not make entertaining, well, entertaining? Have your guests cook at the table with Japanese-inspired beef hot pot.
This what makes it fun.
Yeah, it gets sort of breaks the ice. Of course, a few glasses of wine breaks the ice too. There. Shabu, shabu. So we're having dinner at 8, and don't be late. And don't worry, I'll be there for you. That's next on Sarah's Weeknight Meals. Hello, and welcome to Sarah's Weeknight Meals. Today we're starting at the end. I love to finish a holiday meal with a showstopper dessert. And this one I'm about to make has my top 3 ingredients: apples, shortbread, and caramel. I mean, it doesn't get any better than that. So let's start with the apples. We have Honeycrisp, which is a very sweet apple, a Granny Smith, and a Pink Lady. All 3 of those will hold their shape when you cook them. In here I have 2.5 pounds of the 2 apples I'm using. Honeycrisp are sweet, Granny Smith are tart. They're a nice combo. I'm going to add to this bowl of apples a 1/4 cup of firmly packed dark brown sugar, a tablespoon of freshly squeezed lemon juice, a 1/4 teaspoon of table salt. You need salt in desserts to point up the flavors. I'm also going to add a 1/2 teaspoon of cinnamon. I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of unsalted butter to my skillet. I've been heating it over medium-high heat. And let me get them in. Now, you're going to be amazed. This is a lot of apples. You're going to be like, oh my goodness, how is this going to work? Well, they're going to cook down like crazy. And that's part of the reason we're pre-cooking them. We're trying to get out some of the excess liquid and concentrate the flavor and shrink them down. I'm going to add a half a cup of cider. Everything we're doing is concentrating the flavor. So we're gonna bring it up to a boil, just so I can see that the cider is doing its thing. Put the lid on and cook it for about 12 to 15 minutes. Now, you may get heart palpitations every year at the holidays because you might have to make pie dough. This is my solution, and it's an excellent solution: shortbread. Shortbread is the mother of all butter cookies. 3 ingredients: butter, flour, and sugar. So let me come on over here, and I'm going to show you how to make the crust, easy peasy, in a food processor. We're using 5.3 ounces, which is 1 whole box, 1 sleeve, 8 cookies, 150 grams. I'm going to pulse this several times until I see that the shortbread cookies are coarsely chopped. It's okay if there's 1 or 2 big pieces. I mean, a piece of shortbread in there is a happy thing. Next, a whole stick of butter, unsalted butter, cut into tablespoon amounts. I know we already have butter in the cookies, but more butter is better. I mean, as Julia Child said, I just love butter. A 1/4 cup of firmly packed dark brown sugar, a 1/4 teaspoon of table salt. I'm going to add 3/4 cup of old-fashioned oatmeal. Okay, now we pulse again until this is pretty nicely combined. And I'm just going to pulse for about 3 times because I want the oatmeal to keep its texture. I think this is looking really good, so I'm going to go over, take the cranberries over, and finish the apples. Oh, these apples look perfect. So I'm going to transfer them using this spider to strain out the liquid, put the apples back in the bowl that we had them in before, and then I'm going to crank up the heat and reduce the liquid left in the pan by half. I love dried cranberries. Dried cherries are fantastic too, but we're going to go with cranberries. And we're going to add 3/4 cup to the apples. And let me just say that at this point, hang on, we've got the apples cooked, we've got the cranberries in there. We're going to put the apples and cranberries back into the skillet. See how syrupy it is? We don't want to reduce it any further than this because we do want some liquid in our pie. All right, now for the topping. There's no way around this. You're going to get your hands dirty. We're going to sort of smush it around the top. And we have plenty of topping. It should cover every part of the apple so that whenever you take a bite, you get crispy top and wonderful tender apples, juicy apples underneath. I've already preheated the oven to 400 degrees. We're going to go pop it in. It only takes about 12 to 15 minutes. Now, time for my stress-free sauce. It's caramel sauce, but I'm doing something, I'm cheating. We're going to start with already made caramels, about 11 ounces, which is about a bag of the usual stuff you buy in the supermarket. Shh, I wanted this to be a relaxing holiday for you. So in go into a pan, oof, and we're going to combine that with a couple tablespoons of water, and then we're going to cook that until it's melted. Now here's the really exciting news. You can make this ahead of time, and the apple filling and the apple topping. Park all 3 parts in the fridge, days ahead of time. All right, that looks beautifully melted. So now I'm going to add 1/3 cup of half and half. It's going to bubble up like crazy, so do this very carefully. I'm switching to a whisk. Here goes. Caramel is something you have to be very careful with because it's very hot. Okay, there you go, my very complicated caramel sauce. Let's go see how the pie is doing. Yes, that's perfect color. And as much as I want to dive into this right now, gotta wait, because I will burn my mouth. And also the crust sets up a little bit as it sits. 10 minutes. Okay, I think the fun moment has arrived. It's time to serve the pie. See how nicely the crust's set up? There are yummy juices underneath. And now a little ice cream. We're using vanilla ice cream. And finally is our caramel sauce. Wow. Woo-wee. Yum, yum. Now, this is perfect for a celebration. My skillet apple cranberry pie with shortbread crust and a caramel drizzle. Every Thanksgiving on Good Morning America, I help the turkey challenge through the big day. And over the years, I've realized a lot of people make a lot of mistakes that are easy to avoid, starting with the mashed potatoes. We have in here some Yukon Gold potatoes that we've peeled, and we put them in cold water, cold salted water, brought up to a boil, simmered until they're just tender. You can also use russet, which is a high-starch, wonderful potato, the most famous being the Idaho. Cook it till a knife just goes through, and then we're going to drain these. Just put them back here, shake them around, get off any excess liquid. You have many different options to mash the potatoes. One is what we're using here, which is a food mill. You could also use a ricer, which looks like a giant garlic press. You may have seen those. I love that. Or, if you don't mind a few lumps, you can just use a plain old potato masher and just go like this. Worst comes to worst, use a fork. Every time I pull out one of these food mills, it reminds me of my grandmother, Ruth Moulton, who was a great ye olde New England cook. And I guess she must have used this for a lot of things, not just potatoes. Now we're not going to stir these potatoes at all. We're going to let them relax, put them in the fridge, just a little plastic wrap, and then tomorrow we add the good stuff. We'll heat them up in the microwave and add some softened butter and some hot milk. But this is the bulk of the work. We've done it the day before. I'm going to finish my mashed potatoes. Now I took that bowl that I had in the fridge and I nuked it about 2 to 4 minutes or till they're really nice and piping hot. And now we're going to finish them off. I just use regular whole milk. If you want, you could use some heavy cream or half and half. I'm going to add about 1/2 cup. You can add more, we'll see. I'm going to get the butter in there too. And as much butter as you want. It could be a few tablespoons. I think I'm going to add, let's start with 3 to 4. Salt, pepper, and there's our mashed potatoes. And the reason you don't want to make them completely the day before with the butter and the milk is when you go to reheat them, it sort of tastes stale. This way they're going to taste so fresh and they're going to be so light as if you just made them right now, but you didn't. But don't tell anybody you didn't. Making a fancy dinner party tonight, and for my dinner party I'm making Japanese beef fondue. It's loosely based, I need my second chicken broth. It's loosely based on the Japanese dish called shabu shabu. Isn't that a funny name? But when I say loosely, I mean loosely. What the original recipe is common to many Southeast Asian countries. It is like a hot pot where you cook many vegetables and meats in a big pot of broth. And what's wonderful about it, I'm going to get my broth in here. This is chicken broth. I need about 7 cups. What's great about it is as you cook everything in there, the broth picks up the flavor from all the vegetables and the meat. I don't normally like poaching my meat, which is what we're going to do here, our beef. But in this case, because the broth is so flavorful, it's just superb. And it's got this really comforting taste and aroma. So there's my broth. And all the better if you have homemade beef broth or homemade chicken broth. I'm using chicken broth today. It just has better body from being made homemade. It's got gelatin in it. So now I'm going to add some flavorings. We're going to start by flavoring the broth. So we start with 8 scallions, and this is just going to go in just for 20 minutes, just to give it a sort of an Asian taste. And we're using all of the scallions. And we're starting everything in a cold broth because anytime you want to get more flavor out of something, you start it in a cold liquid and then bring it up. It's like the liquid sucks the flavor out of it. Okay. And then I'm just going to smash 4 garlic cloves and peel them, and they go in there. It really doesn't matter exactly how much, it's sort of what you're in the mood for. And then a 3-inch piece of ginger, and you don't need to peel it because we're just going to remove it anyway, as long as it's been washed, which is fine. Bring that up to a boil and then simmer it for 20 minutes. Now while that's simmering, I'm going to get all of my vegetables together. So we're going to start with some Napa cabbage. And I like Napa just because it's very refreshing. I'm just going to chop it a little bit. And you do this all ahead of time. So when your guests arrive, you're ready to go. And it's somewhat exotic and it's sort of fun. When I was growing up, we regularly had, okay, fondue means melted. It's a French word. And generally, you know, when you think of fondue, you think of cheese fondue, you know, melted cheese in a pan. I think I've got enough here. I'm going to set the rest of this aside. Melted cheese in a pan, but we used to make fondue in a fondue pot. Remember those? We're going to dust it off for tonight. And we did beef. But we didn't do beef in a broth. We did beef in boiling oil. Can you imagine? It was in the middle of the table, and we put in chunks of filet mignon, and then we would make 4 different sauces, like a béarnaise and a tomato sauce and a spicy olive sauce. And it was fantastic. But what's fun about it is everybody sort of gets to make their own little plate of food. Okay, there's our cabbage. Let me now do my carrots. We need 4 carrots, and you just very thinly slice them. I already did 2, I'm doing 2 more. Now you're gonna look at all these vegetables and say, wow, you got a lot of colors going on there. You know, when you read about what kind of things you should be eating, they always say the best way to eat is to eat the colors of the rainbow, because each one of those colors provides some sort of nutrition. I just sliced some shiitakes. Shiitakes have such great depth of flavor. Any mushrooms would do in here, but I just picked shiitakes because they happen to be at the top of my list, but cremini are good. So cremini, white mushrooms, portobellos, and then here I had sugar snap peas. And the way you blanch them is you bring a big pot of water to a boil, you add some salt, you put these in for 30 seconds, and I'm such a nerd, I count 1 1,000, 2 1,000, 3 1,000, 4 1,000, 5, you know, and then I get them right out, put them in ice water and stop the cooking. These actually, I'm not going to cook any further. These are not going in the broth right now. I'm going to start my beautiful stripe. So let's put the peas in the middle. We're going to put all of our vegetables as we blanch them on the platter. And I bet you my broth is done down there. I bet you it's simmered for 20 minutes. Looks good. Okay, at this point, I'm going to take out the aromatics because they've done their job. Thank you, scallions. Thank you, ginger. Thank you, all of you. And then I'm going to slowly cook each of the well, not slowly, quickly cook. The Napa cabbage will only take a minute. Yeah, I'm going to leave these scallions in here. Why not? Okay, I'm going to turn it back up to a boil, high boil, because we want to get these things done quickly. So in's going to go. That wasn't proper English. I'm going to put the cabbage in. And this just wilts. Boom, and it's out. So now the Napa cabbage is adding its flavor to the broth. So wilt, wilt, wilt. Okay, out comes the Napa cabbage, and in goes the carrots. And then while the carrots, I don't think the carrots are going to just take 2 minutes, but while they're cooking, I'm going to get out my meat and slice it. And we're using a nice steak, we're using a sirloin. Now, usual fashion, what I do is I freeze the meat. It's so much easier to slice meat paper thin when it's been frozen for about 20-30 minutes. And I'm just gonna slice it. Yeah, it's easier to slice. Let me cut off the excess fat because we're keeping this very lean, lean, lean. The colder it is, I mean without being frozen, you don't want it frozen, the easier it is to work with. And I've got a little platter over there to put this on. Rinse off my hands since I'm just working with raw meat. Okay, so let me get this onto the platter because we're gonna have different colors. This is a very pretty dish. You know how the Japanese, I'm not saying that I'm Japanese, but the Japanese are terrific at the visuals, so I'm sort of channeling that wonderful Japanese energy. You know, when the wrapping is as good as the gift that's inside of it. Okay, out comes my carrots. Can you see that the broth is changing color? Of course, when you put carrots in there, it gets a really nice orange color. In go my peppers, and that's gonna be a few minutes. Okay, so I'm gonna arrange my meat on the platter. My thinly sliced meat, just mound it up. Separate all the pieces so everybody can help themselves. So just grab a piece or two and put it in the broth. There. That's very pretty. I never thought I'd say that about red meat, but that is very pretty. Okay, put this over here. My meat is ready. Bet you my peppers are ready to come out. I'm just gonna put this down here. We're almost done. We have to just do the mushrooms. All right, so let's put this between the two greens. We need a little pop of color, although the red is gonna be very nice also. Now you could do any vegetables. Let's say you're in the mood for broccoli. That would be fantastic. Obviously it has to be a big enough vegetable that you're gonna be able to pick up and put in your bowl when we go to serve ourselves. Okay, peppers are done, and then I'm gonna add the mushrooms. And these will take no time at all. There's a sauce that goes with this. The sauce is a wasabi sauce. And here we have it right here. I'll bring it up. It's got sour cream, wasabi, dry mustard, salt, chives. The recipe's on the website. But you can buy wasabi in powdered form, which comes in a jar like this. Oops, and it has a lid on it. But you can see it's powder inside, and there's instructions on the side. You just add water to it to resuscitate it. You can buy the tube kind, which you squeeze out. Those, however, ready, fasten your seatbelt, neither one of those products is actually wasabi. What these products are made out of is ground horseradish and green food coloring. But you know what? I've never had fresh wasabi. I don't feel terrible. I love this powdered stuff or the stuff in the tube. So whatever you like, use. Okay. I'm just gonna make a cucumber salad. I'll leave a few guys floating around, who cares? And put peppers. Isn't that beautiful? See what I mean? It's just, this is what I like about entertaining, is the vegetables are doing it for me. It's just clean, clean cooking. Okay, speaking of clean cooking, the cucumber salad is very simple. We used an English cucumber, and we sliced it using this machine, a mandolin. If you're scared of a mandolin, you can use a mini mandolin. And the reason people are scared of it is because it's a washboard with a open blade on it. And make sure you put the guard on and just go like that. Or the last option is to use one of these vertical slicers. Just take the cucumber, lay it down, and go like that. So here we have our cucumbers, and I'm gonna make a dressing, very simple. You take some rice vinegar, and you add a ½ teaspoon of sugar and heat it up until the sugar's dissolved, and then let it cool. And then we're gonna add a teaspoon of soy sauce and ½ teaspoon of toasted sesame oil. And there we go. Wow, that was a complicated dressing now, wasn't it? So I'm gonna pour this over my cucumbers. Isn't that a pretty way to present them? So there we go, that was it. And I'm gonna put it in here. Of course, being me, I would probably add some red pepper flakes too, because I want to add hot stuff to everything. But I'll take pity on my guests because we already have the wasabi cream, and that's plenty hot. I'll pour the dressing over. And we've got our broth, we've got our vegetables, we've got our beef. My guests will be coming soon. I'm going to go set the table. Hey, thank you all for joining me on this adventure. We're having Japanese beef fondue. So here's how it goes. Vincent, will you put some meat in the pot? We're gonna cook the meat. And then, Doug, will you start pouring the sake? We're all in this together. This is an adventure together. Thank you. And we're gonna let that meat simmer for a few minutes in there. And yeah, go ahead, that's good. Okay, now, Vincent, if you'll take a few of each vegetable.
Yes, I will.
And use those tongs. And just take whatever you want. Maybe you don't like mushrooms. Now, let me ask you all, have you ever done anything silly like this before?
I like fun meals. We get to
It's
do
a
stuff.
participatory
You're not
meal.
just served, you actually
Okay.
get to make your own meal,
Right.
so this is fun.
Okay, so now you've got your vegetables in there. I'm gonna put some broth on and we'll get the meat out in just a second. So the idea is you put the hot broth on top. Yes. And now,
nutritious meal.
why don't you put, even though you haven't got the meat yet, it's coming, take a little bit of my wasabi cream.
All right.
Doug, you're very
There
good
you go.
with that. You look like you've done it a lot.
I'm hungry.
So has anybody here ever had any dish like this?
Actually, I've had shabu shabu before.
And how did it compare to this?
It's very similar.
Really?
Yeah.
Is there a trick to know how long you keep the beef in, or you just drop it in?
I'm guessing.
Okay, I like that.
Yeah.
That's the way I
Okay,
cook.
let's see. Oh, it looks good. Yeah, it's a little bit pink. We want a little. Oh my goodness.
Medium rare.
Yeah, this is exciting. And then we can certainly get down to the important stuff, which is to have a sip of sake. What do you think?
I'm up for that.
Yeah. Have you all had cheese fondue?
Yes, it's very good.
And chocolate.
And chocolate. That's the best one on the planet. This is actually quite good, if I do say so myself.
It's very delicious.
The cream goes really well with
Doesn't it?
It does.
That nice contrast.
Yeah.
I love meals like this when you have people that you don't know too well. You have their new guests, you know.
Yes.
This is what makes it fun.
Yeah, it gets sort of breaks the ice. Of course,
Yeah.
a few glasses of wine breaks the ice too. There we go.
This is delicious.
All right, ready? Shabu, shabu. Thank you all for joining me. Thanks for joining me on Sarah's Weeknight Meals. I'm Sarah Moulton. I'll see you next time for some more fun.
What a great time, Sarah. This is fantastic.
Yeah,
It's actually really good.
I love it.
It's actually really
Today, Sarah's Weeknight Meals is all about pot. No, not that kind. I'm talking about casseroles. Dutch ovens, whatever you call them, they're the perfect vessel for a trio of cozy winter dishes. Ta-da! There you go. We'll start small with some adorable personal casseroles filled with penne, fontina, and prosciutto. Think about this. You pop it in the oven, and 15 minutes later, you get this prize. This wonderful, personal pasta, crispy on the top, creamy on the bottom, deeply flavored. Then a super chef smackdown with the mother of all casseroles, the cassoulet. Mine is fast enough for a weeknight full of crispy chicken and smoky kielbasa, and inspired by her.
This is Julia Child. Bon appetit.
My buddy Ming Tsai comes in with his own version. We are making Asian ginger orange duck
Cassoulet.
cassoulet.
Cassoulet in quotes.
Cassoulet.
So cassoulet usually has beans.
Right.
So my bean is the edamame.
He's right. It's all about the beans. So on Ask Sarah,
I was just really interested to have your opinion on this, what I call my bean conundrum.
$1 million question. It's all coming up on Sarah's Weeknight Meals. Welcome to Sarah's Weeknight Meals. You know, if there's anything more lovable than boiled pasta in a sauce, it's baked pasta in a sauce because it gets all crispy on top and creamy underneath. The only trouble with baked pasta is it's hard to get the pasta part of it right. If you boil it ahead of time, it's soggy. If you put it in dry, it never gets tender. I have a secret. I'm going to take some warm water here and add salt till it tastes salty. Let me tell you what I'm making. I'm making baked penne and fontina with prosciutto. Then we're going to add 10 ounces of penne pasta. In this goes. Okay, so we're going to set that aside for 45 minutes. And meanwhile, I'm going to get my cocottes, mini cocottes ready. So these little guys are the mini version of what everybody gets for their wedding. You know, that enamel cast iron version of the large Dutch ovens. Well, here we have 1 cup mini Dutch ovens. And what's so great about this is everybody gets their own personal little dinner. Yum. Okay, let me butter these, or oil these. I'm using olive oil. Let me just mention about these little guys that I just adore because they're so adorable. They also come with lids, which is wonderful for presentation, but also the lids are self-basting. Okay, so I'm going to park them over here and get the rest of the ingredients together. So we're putting rosemary in. I think this will be wonderful. We're going to use about, a tablespoon and a teaspoon, and I'm going to just chop it up. I'm mincing the garlic. I need about 2 teaspoons. There we go. And move on to my prosciutto. I'm going to tear the prosciutto, and this is good quality prosciutto di Parma from Italy. And the reason I'm tearing is it's just very hard to cut. It all sort of bunches up together. Okay, I'm going to go drain the pasta. Time to assemble. Okay, we have here 3/4 cup of fire roasted crushed tomatoes. I like the fire roasted because they got a little smoky taste. This is just, everything is going to get dumped in here and tossed up. We have 3 ounces of fontina, Italian fontina. And then we have our prosciutto. Our Parmigiano Reggiano, the real McCoy, for 1.5 ounces. Our garlic and rosemary. And finally, 1 to 2 teaspoons of hot pepper flakes, 1/2 cup of chicken broth. You need some moisture in here, obviously, because we need to end up with sort of a creamy texture on the bottom. And 1.5 cups of heavy cream. There is no way really around the heavy cream. Don't try to go lighter. It just won't work. Heavy cream is one of the few dairy items that will thicken on its own, particularly with the starch from the pasta. You just have to close your eyes and do it. Oh, let me add some salt and pepper since I'm tossing up anyway. Now I'm going to transfer this mixed pasta into my little cocottes. And you know, it's a messy operation. I like to use a 1 cup measure because I know these hold 1 cup, so I'll be able to distribute all the ingredients much more easily. Now I'm going to top off each one with a few little slices of butter. All right, I think this looks really good. I'm going to take them over, pop them in the oven. 450, middle shelf. 15 to 18 minutes or till it's bubbly around the edges and crispy and golden on top. Okay, let's get on to my fennel orange salad. You want something really refreshing and maybe a little acidic with this creamy dish. So I'm going to start with the dressing, and we're going to use citrus, why not? We've got 2 tablespoons of fresh lemon juice, 2 tablespoons of fresh orange juice, some grated orange rind, about 1 teaspoon. Remember to zest the orange before you juice it, much easier. I like adding Dijon mustard to my dressings. They help to emulsify it. I've got about 1/2 teaspoon. And then some salt, a hefty pinch, and some pepper. And now we whisk it to make sure that the salt gets dissolved because it will not dissolve well in oil. And then I've got some extra virgin olive oil. This is one of those times to pull out the good stuff. And we're just gonna whisk it in. That was about 3.5 tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil. Okay, fennel. Some people don't exactly know what it looks like. This is what it looks like. The part that you mainly use is the bulb, what's underneath here. So we're gonna need about 1.5 pounds of fennel. Tastes vaguely like licorice or anise. Just slice it by hand, it's fine. And as I said, it's 1.5 pounds trimmed, so that means after you've cut off all the parts. I'm going to first toss this fennel with a little bit of the dressing. Okay, oh that's gorgeous. Okay, I'm going to add a couple of cups of arugula. It's up to you, 2 or 3 cups. I like arugula. If you don't, use a different green. I just love its bitterness. It's exactly what my daughter doesn't like about it. Let's see if I can do this artfully. There we go. Okay, very nice. And then I'm going to top it off with a few olives. I'm going to put some of this orange on top of the salad. You could use sliced orange, just peel it and slice it. What I'm using today are supremes, which are sections. Okay, I'm going to check my pasta. Wow. Isn't this just amazing? Wow, it's just so wonderful. So think about this. You pop it in the oven and 15 minutes later you get this prize. This wonderful, personal pasta, crispy on the top, creamy on the bottom, deeply flavored, served with a refreshing salad, a little crusty bread. I'm going to even put a little lid on. You can take it to the table like this and then ta-da! There you go. And everybody is so happy with a little bit, perhaps, of Italian wine, perhaps a Chianti. Yes.
This is Julia Child. Bon appetit.
Call it nostalgia, but I've been revisiting the dishes I learned when I worked on Julia Child and More Company. Here we are in 1979 at the start of a 25-year friendship that changed my life. By the time I followed Julia to Good Morning America in 1981, she had become a national icon, and I had become her food stylist behind the scenes. We made hundreds of dishes, but French cassoulet kind of embodies who she was, hearty and warm and a classic. Okay, we're moving on to an iconic French dish, cassoulet. It was something that Julia loved that we made on the show I worked on with her. And of course, it's normally very complicated, but I've streamlined it. This is a weeknight cassoulet. You can make this in time for dinner on a weeknight. We start with 8 chicken thighs. What I did is I cooked them in a tablespoon of olive oil, seasoned them first with salt and pepper, and now we're browning them on both sides. And I'm using chicken thighs because dark meat chicken just has more flavor. And typically a cassoulet is made with an assortment of meats. It could be duck, preserved duck, lamb, always sausage, and they're just full-bodied. And we're going to dump off almost all of the fat and then add our onion. And so this is just sort of our flavor base. This is 1 medium onion chopped, which is about 1 cup. We're going to soften this a bit, and it's interesting. It's going to sort of deglaze the pan. Sometimes you can deglaze a pan with vegetables because they have so much moisture in them, they sort of bring up all the brown bits. All right, those have gotten softened. I'm going to add my garlic, 4 garlic cloves minced. I'm adding rosemary and thyme, 1.5 teaspoons of each. Now we're going to add a little wine. Now, one of the things about Julia is she really introduced us to wine. Drinking it with meals, she always drank it with meals, and also cooking with it. She kept a bottle of vermouth in her refrigerator. Vermouth is a fortified white wine, so she would have wine on hand at all times to add to a recipe. And what wine does for a recipe is it's a conductor of flavor. So anytime you add alcohol to a recipe, it's just going to taste better. All right, so while that reduces down, I just want to get most of that raw taste of wine off of there. I'm going to come down and talk about the pork component. And we're using kielbasa. In Gascony, they would use some sort of local pork sausage. Now, I want to thicken this stew a little bit. And what better way to thicken it than with some mashed white beans? We're going to put in 4 cups of white beans. White beans are the one thing that's constant, that and some sort of pork sausage in every cassoulet that you find. But I'm going to take out 1 cup of the 4 cups and just mash it with a good old potato masher. And then this is going to act as the thickener. Okay, we're ready to get everything back into the pan. So we're going to put the chicken back in. And then we're going to add our kielbasa. Everything goes in. Just put it in between all the chicken pieces. Our regular beans, our mashed beans, 2 tablespoons of Dijon mustard. I like it because it sort of adds a sharpness to it. And finally, some chicken broth. So I'm going to add a 1.5 cups because you want to make sure there's enough liquid in there so the chicken really braises nicely. All right, we're going to bring this up to a boil, turn it down to a simmer, 15 minutes with a lid on. All right, I'm pouring a glass of Côte de Rhône to go with my cassoulet. And another thing I learned from Julia is it's very important to cook with a wine that you want to drink. And if you're going to add the wine to the dish, well then let it be the wine you're going to serve with the meal. But let me tell you what else I learned from Julia. I learned many things. You must always strive for excellence. Oh my goodness, if I did not peel that asparagus, I was in trouble. So I had to learn it right away. All about excellence. You never stop learning. I mean, all the way till 92, she kept discovering new things about food. Also, that you should always have fun. Cooking is fun. Ah, wow, look at that. You see how the beans thickened it? Isn't that terrific? But we are not done. It's all about the breadcrumbs too, you know, obsession with breadcrumbs. So I'm using panko because I'm doing the modern method. And then just a little more olive oil, a tablespoon. Okay, so sprinkle it all over the top. And it's just supposed to add like a little crust. Okay, let me get my door open. I've got the broiler on down here. And I'm just gonna put it on the shelf. And it's gonna take about 30, 40 seconds to get really nice and brown. Okay, look at that, wow. That looks amazing. Okay, but that is a hot, heavy pan. So I'm gonna just go slow. I'll put 2 pieces on here because you want it to be substantial. And make sure you get some of the young kielbasa. And we'll have a little bit of fresh thyme. It's always nice to put a little greenery on. There we go, that looks lovely. Okay. Time to taste my perfect, quick cassoulet. It's gonna be hot, but it's gonna be yummy. So just a little tiny taste. There we go, with the beans and everything. Wow, perfectly seasoned. One of my favorite segments on Sarah's Weeknight Meals is this little one we call Ask Sarah, because I get to talk to viewers from around the country and help solve their common culinary problems. Today I have Esther Rogers. Hello, Esther. From Tacoma, Washington. Yes, hello. So how can we help you today? What's your question?
Sarah, I enjoy using dried beans. Over the years, I've heard conflicting information. Salt while cooking, don't salt while cooking. Touch of baking soda, not really sure what that was about. And I was just really interested to have your opinion on this, what I call my bean conundrum.
$1 million question is, should you soak them? Yes, you should. Every time, if you can. They certainly will go from dry to cooked you just have to boil them longer. But what I recommend instead is for a pound of beans, cover them with 4 quarts of cold water and 3 tablespoons of kosher salt. What that will do is help them to cook more evenly, tenderize the skins, and season them. What we're going to do now is add the beans to a pot of cold water, which has been salted, and then we're going to bring it up to a boil, turn it down to a simmer till they're done. It takes 1 to 2 hours. And then you just drain them. You can save the liquid or not save the liquid. They freeze really nicely. As for the baking soda, if you want to, you can add a pinch to the beans after they've started cooking, just a pinch. It will speed up the cooking. Trouble is if you add too much, the beans will taste soapy. So Esther, does that answer your question?
It does, but I do have one more question for you, please, Sarah. How long and in what form can I store them for a few days?
That's an excellent question. You can keep in the fridge, I'd say maybe up to 5 days.
And should I store them in that liquid?
Yes.
In the refrigerator?
Do it either way, in the liquid or not in the liquid. It's fine. They'll be fine.
Okay. Oh, that's great. Thank you.
And I just want to encourage all of you to come join me like Esther did with your culinary dilemmas. We'd love to have you on Ask Sarah. I love it when my old friend Ming Tsai stops by to cook.
Hello.
Hey,
Hey, Sarah.
How are you?
Nice place.
Nice to see you.
Get you watering your
I
flowers.
know, I'm so domestic,
Oh
aren't
my
I?
God.
Yeah. Those are beautiful, aren't they? My color, too.
Well, I'm here to cook.
Well, I'm excited. I've got some homemade chicken stock for you and
nice.
everything.
Awesome.
I love duck, and I'm so excited we're making it, but I'm a little baffled. I like French duck cassoulet,
Oui, canard.
but we are making Asian ginger orange
Cassoulet.
duck cassoulet.
Cassoulet in quotes.
Cassoulet.
So cassoulet usually has beans.
Right.
So my bean is the edamame.
Okay.
Right? But it's still classic technique, which is you have beautiful duck legs that I just seasoned. I'm gonna sear them, just a little oil. Duck has so much fat.
Fat, yeah.
So not even a tablespoon, just to kind of coat the pan. Just because you don't want anything to stick at all, right? Just
Right.
swirl the pan a little bit. So, and by the way, here's a great tip. When you season like chicken and duck, I don't need to flip them. I just do one side and put that good side down first. And then once it's in the pan, then I'll season this side.
The second side, right.
The second side, right?
And you always season before you add it.
Absolutely.
And why is that?
You want this seasoning to cook into your protein. You don't want to just season at the end. There's a big difference in flavor and the levels of flavor when you season before you season after. So now I'm gonna season the backside. All I'm doing here is rendering off the delicious duck fat, right?
You want me to cut the orange with the rind on?
I love it. The orange turns into like orange confit.
Yum.
Delicious.
So this is like a Sunday sort of comfort meal.
It totally is a Sunday comfort meal. All right, I sliced a little bit of ginger we're gonna add once the duck comes out. These are serrano chilies. All you do is wash them. I'm gonna just take the end off and I'm gonna slice them whole down the middle, seed and all.
Okay,
All right,
I
this
like
adds
that.
a little bit of heat, but all those oranges you're doing there is gonna add a lot of sweetness. So, all right, Sarah, so you want to get that nice color like that, right? So give these a quick flip. Again, these are not even close to being cooked through, right? These are raw. And you can see how much fat ended up actually in this pan. Just a little bit of duck fat
You're
we're
leaving
gonna
it?
use. So
Okay.
give me your onions, please. And we have celery. These are carrot. I call these carrot nubs.
I know, they gotta call them something. They're so weird.
You know what? But they
looking.
come clean and peeled, and you dump them. They're perfect size.
They're great. They're pre-prepped. Celery in?
Celery.
Everything in.
Now you gotta have a little bit of smoked pork, so just a couple thick slices of bacon.
You don't brown
straight
it,
in.
huh? You just throw it in like
because
that?
it's a braise.
Okay.
Right? You got celery, you got ginger that's been peeled, right? Good flavor of
Beautiful.
ginger. Here's 2 serranos that I just have, seeds and all, because there's heat.
And these oranges?
Oranges go in. I give like just a little squeeze, not all legs. I want to keep this integrity, but just a little squeeze.
With each one?
Yep.
Okay.
Each one. And then the edamame.
That's so
Right?
wild. So these are not gonna be green when we're done
Oh
with
no,
them.
they're gonna be brown. So naturally brewed soy sauce, right? I don't care what brand you use, make sure it says naturally brewed. And there's some great organic out there. And because we can, a little orange liqueur, right?
Boy, this is one heck of a big pot.
Not much more salt because I already had that soy sauce. All right, and we're done. Then we're gonna take all these duck legs, they get dumped back in, and then chicken stock.
Okay, so we'll see what this
And
looks like.
this looks like a lot, but believe you me, when all these veg and oranges
gonna cook down.
it's gonna cook
Be
down.
way
All
down,
Give me
okay.
all that stock.
This is so exciting, I have to
And
say.
by the way, you know this. Buy your chicken stock. You can make it. This looks like homemade because you're Sarah Moulton, but the unsalted ones that you buy are
Aren't
fine.
bad, aren't bad.
Right? They're not bad.
Are we going top or bottom?
Top of it.
Okay. Okay.
$3.50.
Okay. You could do this on top
Almost.
of the stove at a gentle simmer,
Totally.
too.
And this will
Okay.
take about an hour 45, 2 hours.
Okay, you know what? We're going to have tea in my garden.
A spot of tea?
Yes,
Oh,
we
brilliant.
are. We are.
After you. This is so civilized.
I know,
A
isn't it
spot
so-
of tea as our duck cooks? I mean, seriously.
Yes.
Thank
well,
you.
I love tea.
Here, let me do the Japanese thing. You can't serve yourself.
Oh.
You know, with sake, right? You never serve yourself with sake. And tea should always be served for you.
I didn't know that. Wow. I love
Cheers.
tea, but I
love tea.
just make it and drink it every afternoon.
Although the first cup in the morning, it can't be tea. It's got to be coffee. I
Yeah.
need that.
Oh, really? So
I
you
need
go,
that.
you're both and. Yes.
I go both ways. Oh, it's delicious. Love it.
Really good, really good.
This has been fun.
This is so much fun. It's old reunion week.
I'm glad you can still cook, Sarah. That's good to see.
Oh,
Are you
boy.
happy that I can still cook too?
Yeah, you can.
Barely.
You're only getting better,
Yeah,
actually.
no, I don't know about that.
Yeah, you're getting it all the time. Let's go check our duck, don't you think?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I'm bringing my tea.
Okay, I will too.
It's gonna be hot too, so definitely take your time.
Oh boy, I can smell it.
Right? I think it's gonna be good.
Whoa, oh my God.
Look at that. See how much you see how much it reduced down, right?
And look at those oranges. They do look amazing.
Bring that bowl up to me, Sarah. Will you?
Okay.
Look at that. Yeah, these oranges rock. Pour a little of the broth on top.
Do you want more meat in there too?
Yeah, sure. Come on, we're hungry people.
Yeah. You know what? I've set us up for the garden. I think we'll go out and eat in the backyard.
I can't wait. And we have a Pinot Noir for you. All right, Sarah, here's a great Pinot Noir. I didn't invent this. The French invented, of course, Pinot Noir with duck. This one is from Caneros in Napa Valley. Love it. Give it a smell. It's like blackberry and cherry and currant. Cheers to you.
Yes, cheers to you too.
Thanks for
Thank you,
having
Ming,
me.
for being here. And thank you all for watching. I hope you will try these one-pot wonders by my good buddy, Ming Tsai.
You gotta try it too
I will,
there,
I will. I'm gonna
Chef
try the one.
Moulton. Get in there. I'm telling you, it's about the duck, but it's also about the orange. I mean, orange slices like it's butter.
Wow.
Try a piece of that orange.
Okay, I'm gonna try a piece more. Straight up. Sun's out, bun's out. Nothing says summer like a burger grilled outside and nestled in a bun. Or my version of this New England classic, my lobster roll in a shrimp soup. Delicious. That's right. Replacing shrimp for lobster means you can save money and enjoy this classic anywhere. Next up, maybe it's because I'm small, or maybe it's just because I don't like to eat a lot of meat at one fell swoop. I love a slider. This one's made of pork, loaded with crunchy veggies, and slathered with a cilantro mayo. That's darn tasty. Maybe you're looking for a leaner burger. Turkey burgers are a healthy alternative, but they tend to have the texture of cardboard. How do you get around that? Vegetables are my secret. Today I'm making turkey spinach burgers. Does that look like a lean, depressing burger? I don't think so. That's today on Sarah's Weeknight Meals. Probably didn't know there's two different kinds of lobster rolls. Right here we have the lobster roll from Maine, the one you're probably familiar with, mayonnaise, celery or cucumber, and lobster, of course. Over here we have the Connecticut version. What makes this one different? This one is served warm and usually with just, melted butter. My family likes to put hot brown butter on top. Delicious. Today, I'm going to make the Maine version of a lobster roll, however, a much cheaper version. with shrimp. Let's get started with the crunchy part. Traditional lobster roll, I'm going to keep calling it that, but I mean my shrimp roll, has celery in it. I'm going to use instead some cucumber. I just prefer cucumber, and so does my daughter. As a matter of fact, she wouldn't touch it with a 10-foot pole. I've chopped up, this is about 4 ounces, a scant cup of that seedless cucumber, although there are seeds in there, but they're edible. I'm going to salt them. You don't have to, not absolutely necessary, but it pulls out some of the liquid so that this doesn't water down your lobster salad later on, and also flavors the cucumbers, which is wonderful. So I've just got them in a strainer. I'm going to put a little salt on, toss them up, and then park them for about 10 minutes, and you will be surprised how much liquid comes out. So now we're going to talk about shrimp. I'm going to line up the shrimp like roquettes on a cutting board and do one action at a time. So first, I peel them, and I'm going to save the peels in this container here, a glass container with this lid, and you can suck out all the air. The idea is to save the shrimp shells for later on to make a shrimp stock. Fantastic. Now that we've got the shells off, I'm going to lay them all flat, keep them lined up like the roquettes, and run the knife down the back side of the C-curve, one after another, because what's in that outside of the C-curve is the intestine of the shrimp. And perhaps the shrimp had dinner last night, and perhaps there's a little shrimp poop in there. We want to get rid of the shrimp poop. Okay, now, let me just explain one thing. So here's the C of the shrimp, right? You're taking the vein that's on the outside, the intestine, that little strip. There's one that goes on the inside. Don't worry about that. That's the nervous system or something. It's the outside one you want to take. I tell you this because my daughter one time was making dinner for her boyfriend, and she had to do like 2 pounds of shrimp, and she took both sides out. Oh my God, 2 hours later she started cooking dinner. Okay, now I'm going to go over to the sink and wash out that vein. Okay, some cold water. Here it is, you see? We're just rinsing it out. If you tried to take it out with a paring knife, you get it all over your fingers get sticky. This is so much easier. So I've got a big pot of water here. There's about 3 quarts in there, and I'm going to add some salt. So I'm going to add about a tablespoon. Okay, that looks like it's boiling. So I'm going to add the shrimp. And we're going to watch it to make sure it doesn't come back to a full boil. Just like any other protein, you don't really want to boil it because whenever you boil protein, it just gets tough. You can see that it's already turning color. It takes almost no time at all. So I'm going to take one out right now and show you what it looks like inside. I'm going to cut it in half because the idea is that we want it to not be translucent in the center. So I'm just going to turn that off, let it sit for 10 seconds. We're going to stop the cooking by putting it in ice water. The shrimp is now going to stay in here for about 10 minutes, cooling off, and I'm going to start working on the sauce. Now for the sauce, I'm going to zest my lemon to get about a teaspoon of zest. Then I'm going to cut a wedge out of the lemon to add about a teaspoon of juice to our sauce. Good point to remember, zest the lemon first and then juice it. I'm going to pick some of these chives here and then mince them into about 2 tablespoons. Then I'm going to add a half cup of store-bought mayonnaise and stir it really well. So first the cucumbers are going in. Yep, they gave off quite a bit of water. I think these shrimp are cool enough now. I'm going to lift them out and put them on some paper towels and pat them dry. And then, because they're rather large, I'm going to cut them either in half or in thirds. And boom, we're done. Now you saw me make that from start to finish. Okay, let me just stir it up. Oh, this looks so good. Wow. Okay, bun time. We have two traditional buns here. This is the old hot dog, the one you get at the ballpark, and this is the New England version of a hot dog bun. This is what we want. Why? Because it's exposed on the sides. So when we go to saute it in butter, ooh, it absorbs all that butter. The other difference is where the split is that you put the food. But don't worry, if you can't get the New England style, you can buy the regular and just stand them up like this and cut down either side to expose the edges. I'm going to pop some butter in here. When the foam is just starting to subside, you know it's hot enough and you can get those buns in. All right, now while that is browning, I'm just going to tidy up a little bit. Okay, I think these guys are ready, nicely browned on both sides. It's time to eat our shrimp rolls. All right. Now it's very important to make sure these are completely full because the whole, abundance. And an extra spritz of the chives. We're giving each person their own little paper holder.